folks, Scott here with my 10 card 1 kit video featuring the Love From Lizi June 2018 card kit. I believe Lizi refers to this card kit as the Maker's Gonna Make kit, and it's filled with all sorts of colorful pattern papers and cardstocks and stickers and chipboard stickers, and of course that very interesting, unique, and exclusive stamp set. I like to call this the Build a Bust stamp set because you've got a head, you can put different hairstyles on it. Let's see what we can do with these supplies in this kit. As usual, I did go through and make card bases out of all of the colored cardstock in the kit. Now there was one of the images on the 4x6 cut apart sheet that really caught my eye. So I went to that first, and on the Sunshine Yellow card base, the first card we get this month is a nice crafting card. You make me so very happy. I can't help myself, but if I see a piece of cardstock with sewing machines or stitching, or I just can't help but bring out my embroidery floss and do some stitching myself. This came out really nicely. I've got 3 different sets of stitches in different colors. Now I just pulled out my Tim Holtz design ruler. I think everybody has seen these. They've got little holes along one edge. So I bring out my little retractable pokey tool and poked holes in this pattern paper with my pokey tool to make holes for my stitching. I dug through my embroidery floss and found 3 colors that were pretty good matches for 3 of these sewing machines on this cut apart paper. I did a cross stitch in the center, just a straight back stitch on the bottom, and did a kind of a chain and straight stitch combination on the top there in the green, just between the rows of the sewing machines. Now this original sentiment printed on this cut apart simply said, "So very happy." I didn't feel like that was very complete, so I did go to my Silhouette software and created this "You Make Me So Very Happy" sentiment for the front. I sized this to fit in the same space where the printed sentiment was, and I printed this up on my printer with the typewriter hand font. It actually matched very well the font that was on that original cut-apart sheet. So once my stitching was done, I matted that cut-apart onto a thin black mat and mounted that down to the Sunshine Yellow card base. And lastly, I took the Nuvo drops in that great liquid mercury color, and I put those Nuvo drops on the stitch regulator dial of all of the sewing machines that showed the stitch regulator dial. I did mount this little sentiment up on some foam tape at the bottom. "You make me so very happy." This was a really nice way to ease into this card kit. I like doing some stitching on a card front. It adds some great texture and some nice color and shine. You make me so very happy. I'm so glad you came into my life. Card number 2. We've got this cerise pink cardstock. So I've got to do something with these pink card bases. So I turned to my chipboard stickers, and we had 3 lady stickers on that chipboard sheet, and I thought 2 of them actually looked very similar, almost like they were sisters. So for my second card this month, we get "You'll Always Be My Sister. My older sister, happy birthday." These are those 2 chipboard stickers that I thought looked very similar. I would say this is the older sister, this is the younger sister. I took a piece of that lilac gingham pattern paper included in the kit, and I printed the sentiment on that. I used the Bradley hand font and my Silhouette software to type up these sentiments on both the front and the inside, printed those up in a nice purple color to go along with this card. And then I added that shaped ribbon with the hearts on the side of it. I actually cut that ribbon down the center, glued it behind the two sides of this gingham pattern paper, and used that for the background on my card base. Glued down the gingham paper on front, put the two girls on top with little bits of foam dots behind them for a little extra dimension. I did dig around and I actually found these little bitty gems in my stash. I believe the pink ones are Studio Katia, and I believe these little bronze ones are the tiny gems that we got in one of Lizzie's kits. I don't remember which kit. I did add a little sequin to the flower in her hair. It doesn't feel too awful pink, though it is kind of girly. So let's play with this stamp set and see what we can come up with. I was really tickled by the fact that our main stamp here, the head and shoulders, didn't have a top to the head, so it could accommodate these two different hairstyles. So I started wondering what we could do with the top of her head that wasn't necessarily a part of the stamp set. On the sky blue card base, you blow my mind. I did stamp this image from the card kit. I then found an image on the internet of a mushroom cloud. This is actually the image of a volcano erupting, but it's in a shape of a mushroom cloud. So I used that to trace this mushroom cloud coming out of the top of this person's head with one of my Pigma Micron pens. Matched the line width on the stamp set very nicely. Now I did do this first and had nothing on the background, and I decided that I needed some kind of radiating rays explosion coming out for the background for this. Now I tried using some of the little bitty stripes on this pretty plaid stencil to do some radiating lines out there, but I was not successful at that at all. So I got a little frustrated and decided that I would try to create my own stencil on my silhouette. I recently purchased some silhouette stencil material. I think I got it on sale, 40% off or something like that. And I was kind of itching to try to create a stencil. So this is the stencil I created on my silhouette, made out of that stencil material. Now, of course, I got stencil material that is sticky on the back. I love stencils that are sticky. I just mounted this to a piece of wax paper so it'll peel off very easily. It's very sturdy material. I think this stencil will last me for a long time. I really liked the alternating widths of the rays shooting out that I was able to get. My first stencil that I made on my silhouette, and I made it just for the background on this card. You blow my mind. I did color the image and the mushroom cloud with my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. This is stamped and colored on a piece of the Copic friendly cardstock from the kit. I did cut that out then with one of my stitched rectangle dies. Of course, I don't know what I'd do without those. I mounted that image onto a thin mat of the silver mirror cardstock. I think it needed some really big shine there considering the explosion. And then matted that to a larger mat of the dark blue shimmer specialty paper. That all goes down on the sky blue card base. Really colorful, really pretty card. I even added some small dots of the Nouveau drops as kind of like little pieces of head flying out from the explosion. Now, because I didn't put glasses on this or I didn't put any eyelashes on this, I used it literally just the stamp itself. I did stamp the little necklace on it. I kept looking at it and it seemed very alien to me. And it turned out that, lo and behold, this poor person didn't have any eyebrows. So I added some eyebrows in, and that made all the difference. When using this stamp, be aware that there's no pupil in the eyes. So you can actually draw the eyes in so they are looking in the direction you want them to be. I added little white highlights in the pupils here for a little extra life in those eyes. And if you don't put glasses on them or lashes, then they definitely need some eyebrows. So this is my You Blow My Mind card. Nothing crafty here, nothing girly here, but a great fun image. Now the dies we got in this month kit were 6 assorted button dies. This is one of the dies. After belaboring the toggle button puns for as much as I could, I finally decided to go with this button, and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, sometimes I can think very literally. You're completely fascinating. Again, this is one of those cards whose simplicity just speaks volumes. I actually love this a lot. I took a piece of the gray gingham pattern paper, cut that out, of course, with one of my stitched rectangle dies. I matted that onto a thin black mat and attached that down to the medium gray card base. I then took a 2-inch piece of the diagonal gingham pattern paper, scored it at a 1/2 inch on both sides, folded both edges under so that the edges of this placket would be folds, used my little gray marker to put little gray stitch lines down the sides. I die cut a dozen of those button dies from some of my standard gray Staples cardstock, glued 4 of those together for each button, added some embroidery floss for the thread. This is DMC number 3072, light beaver gray. And then mounted those on the center of the placket with little spots of foam dots. I really like this. It's a great representation of the front of a shirt. I like this card so much that I actually made 2 sentiments for it. I love this pun. You're completely fascinating, which I think most people would get. But then I also came up with a different sentiment that I think works really good with this image, but is a completely different card. How about, thanks for helping me keep it together? I think either one of those would work in this card. The first one makes me laugh. This one is actually kind of touching. Thanks for helping me keep it together. And you are so fascinating. I did print this sentiment on my printer using my Silhouette software. This is the typewriter hand font. In a darkish gray, not black, but gray, in keeping with the colors of this card. This is card number 4 this month. Now, I do try to use as many of the items included in a kit as possible with these 10-card videos, but we got those crocheted doilies in this kit, and I thought, I am just not a doily person. But I actually liked that double-layered doily that was shaped like a flower, and thought I could possibly use my alcohol markers to color that doily. Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once you grow up. Look at that crocheted doily there. That is actually pretty stunning. I used my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers to color this doily. It took the color very well. I got some nice dark oranges out to yellow. The very edges are the original beige of those doilies. So I colored that up like a flower. I took the smaller flower-shaped doily and colored that with a couple of greens to make leaves. I simply covered the back of that doily with a lot of glue, just plain old white glue, and let it dry because I knew I was going to cut it apart to make leaves. And I think those leaves came out terrific. I actually used this next to this thinnest stripe on the pretty plaid stencils and inked up the stem for this flower. This is just Mowed Lawn Distress ink on the blue gingham pattern paper. That's cut out, of course, with a stitched rectangle die, matted on a thin mat of that dark blue specialty paper, and then down to the sky blue cardstock. I adore this card. I think it's great. I love this sentiment. Every child is an artist. That's all done in the marker felt font. Created those on my silhouette. I actually cut this front one on my silhouette too, and cut 4 or 5 layers of that, glued them all together for a little nice chunky thick sentiment on the front. I did take one of the faceted heart gems from the kit, added that to the center of the flower. It gives us a nice little sparkle there. Every child is an artist. I think we can all agree on that. This is actually a quote from Pablo Picasso, but I paraphrased it in order to make it more gender neutral. I guess in Picasso's time, artists were only men. So I took out the man reference in it. So that's why I'm not actually attributing it to Picasso. It has been paraphrased. Every child is an artist. The problem is to remain an artist once you grow up. Beautiful card. The doily gives so much dimension and texture to this card. I never would have thought I would use those doilies, but when this idea came to me, I couldn't resist. So I still have another one of those cerise pink card bases to go, so I've got to do at least one more girly card. I noticed on the chipboard stickers that that last girl sticker and the sewing machine sticker from the chipboard sheet were both very similar in scale to each other. So let's put her to work. I really liked that measuring tape ribbon that came in the kit. So that's basically what prompted this whole card. I love this sentiment, measure for measure, sewing's a pleasure. On the inside, it simply says, just for you. This is a great gift card for any handmade gift that you'd like to give to somebody. I paired up the girl chipboard sticker with the sewing machine chipboard sticker. Looks like she's sitting at the machine sewing away. That's all on top of that button pattern paper from one of the backs of the cut-apart pages. I glued down the measuring tape ribbon on the 2 sides, cut the pattern paper out, of course, with a stitched rectangle die, mounted that with some foam tape up on the pink card base. So that's really nice. I did add, of course, another blob of that liquid mercury Nouveau drops to the center of the stitch regulator dial. This is a fun card. I love that sentiment, measure for measure, sewing's a pleasure. I did create that sentiment using my Silhouette software in the Blackjack font. Now, this is a new font for me. I just got it this week, I believe, the Blackjack font. Really pretty. I especially like the Just For You on the inside there. Just For You, that's really pretty font. I like that Blackjack font. There'll be a link to that font on my website if you'd like to get that font for yourself. Fairly simple, very straightforward. Another sewing card. That's okay. It's a little girly. Now, since I used one of the 4x6 cut-aparts on that first card, I turned to the 4x4 cut-aparts on the other cut-apart sheet, and my attention was drawn to one of the big graphic text sheets there. That's what prompted this card. Create. It says create on the front. Art is cheaper than therapy. Boy, ain't that the truth. I actually fussy cut the create out of this 4x4 sheet of pattern paper. It had kind of a little white outline on probably 75% of those letters. So I went in with my Sharpie, my white Sharpie paint pen. This is a watercolor, water-based paint pen. Nice fine point, and completely sketched in around these letters. I wanted to use that pattern paper that was the big like watercolor swatches. They match those letters perfectly. So I cut that piece using my largest stitched rectangle die, which is actually a card front size. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Fits a card front perfectly. And I used my sheer shimmer spritz to add a little sparkle to that background. There, I think you can see that. After fussy cutting those letters and adding a little white outline around all of the edges, I did mount them to this card base with foam dots, so there's a little dimension there. I like the fact that those letters match the watercolor swatches on that pattern paper. These are 2 chipboard stickers. I used a number of chipboard stickers this month. The paint palette and the paint brush just mounted on the front. There's a little foam dot behind this since it's up on that. Covered the whole white card base with that pattern paper. I needed a big piece of pattern paper, so I had enough room to put this whole word create across the front. But I really like the graphic nature of this card. Create. Art is cheaper than therapy. I did, of course, create this on my Silhouette software. This, again, is the marker felt font. I'll have a link to that font on my website as well if you'd like. And I actually grabbed one of the stickers that said Create, had a little colored pencil. I added this sticker down to the bottom right corner of the writing surface on the inside. I think that's a nice touch. Art is cheaper than therapy. I think that is a sentiment that we all can agree with and that everybody can take advantage of. Now, there was this one sentiment on the stamp set that said, "Happiness looks gorgeous on you." So that gave me the idea to do this mirror card. So on the medium gray card base, look at that. You can almost see me there. There I am. Happiness looks good on you. Oh my God. This is actually a frame from the November Love From Lizi kit. One of the cut apart sheets had all of these ornate frames. So I cut a frame off from that pattern paper, and I actually had some old mylar, mirror mylar, hanging out in my stash. So I cut a little bit of this off to use for a mirror behind this frame. I mounted that up on foam. Look at that. You can almost see me pretty good. It's a little bit distorted. The one thing with a mirror is it's got to be perfectly flat to give you an absolutely true reflection. On the medium gray card base, I have that dark blue pearlescent specialty paper. I stamped the sentiment with Versamark ink and white embossed that. Happiness looks gorgeous on you on the front. I added the frame and mirror with some foam tape, and I trimmed out that specialty paper with that dark blue ribbon from the kit. To finish that out on the inside, I did do just a simple congratulations. The congratulations I printed on my Silhouette software. It is in the Noteworthy font, which is a perfect match for the font used in the stamp set. A fun mirror card. You can't get more interactive than seeing your own image reflected back to you on the front of a card. So let's dig into this pretty plaid stencil. Once again, I think my anal retentive obsessive nature came to the forefront while I was trying to use that stencil on the sunshine yellow card base. You had a sneak peek of this. I'm Tartan to like you. And I'm so plaid. Oh, I couldn't resist. Those are some great puns, some terrific puns. Now, this plaid that I managed to stencil onto this card front is a takeoff on a real Scottish lion tartan plaid. So I simplified it a little bit, of course, but tried to get as close as possible to the spirit of the Scottish lion tartan. I started with plain green cardstock. Then I used the next to the largest stripe to ink the 3/6 large wide. They're kind of bluish green because I inked those with the Peacock Feathers Distress ink. I used this third from the smallest skinny stripe and inked up all of the black stripes with Black Soot Distress ink. Then I went through with my Avery L Pure White Pigment ink and used the Stitched Stripe stencil, say that 5 times fast, for the white dashed lines on the front of this card base. Finally, I went in with my, once again, my Pigma Micron pen, and I drew really, really thin lines down the middle of all those green, dark green, blue stripes. And that's my Tartan plaid pattern paper based on the Scottish Lion Tartan. I am tartan to like you. I created that sentiment in my Silhouette software, was able to curve it enough so that I could use my Doris, one of my Doris banner dies, to cut that out. So I cut that out 4 times from some scrap white cardstock, mounted that up with some foam dots to the card front. Nice thick banner here with a little dimension there. I did matte this card front on a thin piece of white matte, just for a little bit of a highlight around the edges. Mounted that all directly onto this sunshine yellow card base. I'm tartan to like you, and I'm so plaid. I have to admit, it was a little fussy, and I had to use measurements and things like that, but I really enjoyed creating this tartan plaid with that pretty plaid stencil Lizzie included in the kit. It looks terrific, and I think it's very masculine. I have to admit, when I first saw Lizzie's unboxing of this kit, my mind started racing to think up some way that I could turn her Build-A-Bust stamp set into a guy. Could I possibly make that stamp set stamp a guy instead of a girl? I am, after all, a male crafter. I'm trying to make this card kit as accessible to everybody as I possibly can. Again, I think one of the most interesting things of that stamp set is that open-headed stamp that you could put anything on that. You can put, obviously, a mushroom cloud. You could put a big hat. You could put a different hairstyle. There are so many options on things that you can do with that open head stamp. So I thought I would play with that stamp for my last card. Perfect, just as you are. It is June. It is Gay Pride Month. I couldn't resist. Here's that stamp turned into a guy. Now, this whole card layout was dictated by this final image here. I had to figure out a way to put the sentiment and the image both on one layer of this card. So I dug through my stitched circle dies and found a pair that cut a frame just large enough to enclose this stamp with that large updo hairstyle on it. So once I figured out where this image needed to be, I stamped her on all of the layers in the exact same place and cut 3 of those frames from my craft cardstock. Now, I colored all of these images with my colored pencils because I didn't want alcohol markers to bleed through the backs of these side pieces. When I stamped the head stamp here, I just wiped off the corner of the neck and shoulders because I knew I wanted to put this guy in a robe for this first image. So I just sketched a little robe on him. I sketched a little towel wrap on his hair, and then I gave him a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow down around his chin. Now, you'll also notice that I did add eyebrows to him. They're kind of bushy and they're kind of straight across. I think that's a little bit more masculine than nicely curved, thin eyebrows. So this is where we start, like he has just gotten out of the shower. Now his head towel is off. You can see his hair is short and or slicked back. He's wearing either a slip or a camisole or maybe a brassiere. And you can see that he has eyelashes now, and his eyebrows have been trimmed and tamed and curved gracefully. His makeup is a little bit darker here. He's starting to get some blush, starting to get a little bit of eyeshadow going behind those eyes, and he does have some false eyelashes on already. This is my second image. You'll notice on the first image I got that blue gingham paper as a little strip on the bottom. We go to the purple or the lilac gingham paper, and then we go to the pink gingham paper on the back. Now for this one, she is decked out completely. Plenty of rouge, plenty of eyeshadow. Yes, she has her fake eyelashes. I gave all three of these folks some pupils and little white highlights in their eyes. I did add some eyebrows on her. I used a little bitty blue teal sequins to give her a little sparkly dress and also a matching headband around the bun on her hair. I then dug through my stash for some of my smallest gems, found these little white gems, used them to create earrings and a necklace on her. I did use the lip stamp that I was able to stamp fairly accurately for lipstick on our lovely drag queen. This card makes me laugh every time I open it. I think RuPaul would be proud. I truly hope I don't offend anybody with this card. This just makes me smile a lot. I really hope Lizzie doesn't mind that I turned her into a drag queen. Truly, all my love and best intentions. I thought this was so much fun, and I thought that sentiment went perfect with this card. A nice double fold card for our final card this month. So that's my 10 cards for the Love From Lizi June 2018 Maker's Gonna Make card kit. Of course, I have tons of supplies left over, a big piece of that silver mylar paper. I used a good amount of the chipboard stickers, I thought. Of course, I've got that fun stamp set that you can do almost anything with. I hardly used any of these lilac peel-offs, just a couple of them on that sister birthday card. I've got lots of pattern paper. I like those gingham pattern papers. Lots of stickers and cut-aparts. This is the only sheet I didn't use anything from. Of course, those great Nuvo drops will find a place of honor on my Nuvo drop shelf. I think this is a very eclectic group of cards that highlights how many different directions you can go with this fun, colorful card kit. Now, I believe there are still some of these kits available. If you'd like to grab one for yourself, please use my link in the description down below to shop at lovefromlizi.com. Also, Lizzie has just released the Oh Baby Special Edition kit as a mini pack kit that basically has all of the same items in it from the original kit minus the alphabet dies. It's very inexpensive. I do have a 10-card video up for that. I'll link that in the description down below if you want to take a look at that. It's a great, fun decoupage card kit, and she's offering it, since it's a mini pack, she's offering it at a very, very reasonable price. Take a look at that. If you go to lovefromlizi.com to shop, please use my link. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you for sharing your time with me here today. I hope you enjoyed the cards that I came up with this month. I have to admit, I thought this was a little bit of a challenge for this kit, but I really enjoy all of the cards that I came up with. I hope you like them too. Thanks again for spending your time with me here today. Please like me, list me, pin me, post me, share me with all of your friends. Don't run with scissors. And happy crafting. If you would like more detailed information, better pictures, and product links, please visit my website at cardcutups.com.